Oleg Šelajev, welcome to Duke's Corner.
Hi, Jim. Glad to be here.
It's good to see you. I guess I saw you last in, it was probably Atlanta, or maybe it was Stockholm. I'm not sure. One or the other.
It was DevNexus, most probably.
DevNexus in Atlanta. Yeah. Okay. Well, now we're talking because doing a little bit of a sort of a preview with JavaOne, because I see you on the speaker list. JavaOne is back. That's really cool. And it'd be great to get everybody back together again and get that feel of the conference for so many years that ran. And you're doing a session. So let's talk a little bit about your session, and then a little bit about JavaOne, and then a little bit about the community maybe, and then wrap it up. So I hear you're doing a session on integration tests. Let's start there. What's up with that?
Yeah, so I work as at AtomicJar, which is the startup by the maintainers of the Testcontainers libraries, which is the libraries to simplify and enhance your integration tests. And my session is Delightful Integration Test with Testcontainers, which is an introductory session where we're going to talk about Testcontainers libraries, what they give you as a developer, and how you can write your tests differently using them. In short, Testcontainers sort of integrates, on one hand, it integrates with the Docker API and allows you to run anything that is runnable in a Docker container. For the integration test specifically, you want to run the technologies that your application depends on, like your database, maybe your Kafka, Elasticsearch, your, other message brokers, maybe even cloud technologies, right? So you want to run your application during the tests with the real technologies it's gonna use in production, because it will increase the reliability and trustworthiness of your tests. So Testcontainers give you the flexible programmatic API to control, create, and configure those third-party components that you need for your test runs. And on the other hand, Testcontainers integrates with your application frameworks, Spring Boot, Micronaut, Quarkus, you name it, and with your test libraries, JUnit, Spock. So it gives you the full flexibility over the control of those third-party services that you need, and ties them into the life cycle of your tests or your application. So it seamlessly connects those two things. And being like code first, there is no, it doesn't require you to specify the configuration somewhere external. So you just write your test as you would write your normal unit test, and you run it the same way from your IDE, from your command line, in your CI environment, right? But your application will run and test, the test will run in the context of the actual technologies, which is a superior way to test applications. And I think specifically the more modern the way we write applications nowadays, right? Microservices very often depend on a ton of technologies and contain maybe less intricate business logic in itself.
Interesting.
So we're going to talk about that on the session.
So why the first word of the title is delightful? I mean, from your description, it sounds like a very comprehensive, a piece of technology, but which is great. But why delightful? That's an interesting turn of phrase, juxtaposed with the concept of doing integration tests.
Yeah. So when I was looking on how to describe the tests that you get with Testcontainers, the important bits there, and I think this is what I would like to tell the audience, and what I would like them to take away with them after the session, is that Testcontainers allows you to create those very reliable, repeatable, and easily maintainable tests. Right? Very often people have this connotations that, integration tests have to be slow, they have to be hard to maintain. There is probably like a wallpaper size of YAML somewhere to describe things, and they're fragile. And with Testcontainers, that is not the case, right? Testcontainers brings all that configuration into your IDE, into your code, where you as a developer know exactly what you're doing. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you type dot, right? And your IDE suggests you what you can do with that. So they are comprehensive a lot of teams and projects come back to us and say that, oh, they started doing integration tests more and they started relying on them much more. So it's a very good practice for your project and your delivery pipelines. But on the other end, the developer experience of writing and maintaining tests like that is very, very lightweight, and it feels like those tests are exactly, they look and feel like unit tests. They're lightweight, they run fast, there is no not a lot of configuration. You can run it from your IDE easily, so you know how to work with them as a developer. So I think this combination of being able to trust your tests more and actually liking and enjoying working with them will make this very delightful developer experience.
I see. Cool. All right. Well, that's great. I think, developers are always looking for things that are going to make them more efficient, and so they can write better code and better applications and stuff. But when things come along that just are, wow, cool, really interesting, that's very useful, I'm going to love this, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm looking for. And so that's why I kind of, when I saw the word delightful, I said, oh, okay, this must be interesting. So
yeah, I hope it's going to be interesting, and people will love it and write tests more.
So, well, that just gets me to ask another question about who's going to use this. Is this all developers, or developers that are really focusing more on test? Is it really all developers in this space are going to use this?
I have a firm belief that more and better quality tests are one of the sure ways to improve the quality of software in general, right? We know that having better test suites improves the quality of software, right? But so I would say all developers should write tests, and the more and better tests you write, the happier you will be as a developer, right? So what was it? What makes us tick or something like that? Autonomy, mastery, purpose, right? Like as a developer, I'm the happiest when I know what I'm doing, right? And of course there is the business requirements and everything. That's the meat of the job, to describe that to the computer.
Right.
But also I want to know that I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, right? How do I know that? I'm just running the tests. If tests pass, it means I didn't break anyone else's job, right? I want to know that the things that I'm doing will work. How do I know that? I run the tests and I'm happy seeing that green check marks. Ding, 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 ding. and I know that after a while, like when I write the tests and I can run them, right? I know that everyone else on my team also can run them. So it will make their lives also easier. So more tests will make the developers happier. And I think a happy developer is a productive developer. Like you cannot, the brain doesn't work when you are unhappy, right? When you are struggling and you're down and you're oh my God, I need to this task again. I'm changing this. Will it ever work? Am I even doing the right thing? That's not a recipe to have productive developers and productive teams.
Yeah.
When you are swinging there in the code, changing things, refactoring on the fly, leaving the code better than it was before, knowing that you are confidently can do this because you have this safety net of good tests, then we're talking about productive teams. So I think everyone should test more, write those tests. You don't have to do TDD. You can write tests at whatever moment of time you want. But I think it will be better, and you will say thank you to your past self when you open the project again, and they're oh, there are lots of tests. Great, excellent.
One of the reasons why I asked the question is working with developers like I have for so many years, and also scientists. I've done a lot of work with in the biotechnology and the pharmaceutical industry, and there's this concept that technical people have through their training, basically a scientific method. I mean, you don't know something's going to work unless you test it in some way. And the whole scientific method really is a test. It's just a methodology of testing something. And when I started working with engineers, that same mentality was there as well. I used to work in Solaris at Sun and also Oracle, and that's, there was testing was always top of mind. It was a discussion in almost every meeting. Does it work? How do you document that? Can you prove it? Who are you breaking? So,
like, do you know that it works?
Right,
Have you
exactly.
seen? And also, like, just writing like random tests is not always great. You would like never trust a test that you haven't seen failing, right? Because it might not test the right things, but
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
right? So like, well, this is your normal workflow. Like you receive an issue, you write a test, you repeat, like you reproduce the problem with the test. You see it fail, then you change something in the code and you see the impact of the change,
Right.
flipping the switch on the test for the particular like functionality, right? And then you can run the whole suite to verify that this change that you did only affects those particular use cases. And then it's good. And
So-
I think it's, exactly. It's a little bit like the scientific method.
So is this, when you got into, when you were younger, sort of looking at careers and stuff, and you decided to become a developer, was this mindset of, so did you have a developer mindset before you got into it? Or is this something you learned along the way?
No. Yeah, I learned it on the way, and like I accidentally fell into like sort of IT and computer science. I didn't know what to do after school, and when I went to the university, I just picked one at random. As a child, I loved computers, so
I see.
I didn't really understand what I will be doing, but I thought like this sounds cool, and I can apply myself there, and then it just started rolling, and then eventually I discovered to myself the community. Well, my first language was Java. It was back in 2000 somethings. I think I started with Java 5, so I never experienced the world without collections. Okay, lucky me. And then eventually I discovered the larger ecosystem and community. I think in 2011, my first conference ever was JavaOne, which absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because JavaOne is back now, so you're going to go back to JavaOne. I mean, what was your previous experience?
Oh, wait, I think JavaOne I have a very special place in my heart for JavaOne. As I said, it was my first, right? And I come from Estonia. It's a small country. We're like not super tiny, but like the density of population is not very high, right? Mm-hmm. And like a few dozens of people is a lot of people, right? And like maybe hundreds is already like a very good gathering. JavaOne back then was massive. It's a crazy big show. Anyone in the Java community was there. There were like personal heroes. I'm looking forward to meeting and seeing my friends again at this year's one. And there were like people discuss things at a totally different level, right?
Really?
I was an ordinary developer. I was developing my project and my product, and we were doing cool things back then. But it's a very different scale, right? When you talk to someone, you talk to, I don't know, Java platform architects, and they're discussing things about that will touch the professional lives of every Java developer in the world, right? It is just absolutely crazy feeling of how connected the world is, and the ecosystem and the community, and how you can become a part of that. So I think it influenced me very, very much, and I think that's what kickstarted my wish to be more in the open source community, more visible. Maybe I can research something and then go and tell and educate other people about what I've learned, right? So it was life-changing for me. So I'm super looking forward to coming to JavaOne.
So the community concept in general also struck you, not only that conference specifically, that technology specifically, JavaOne, but the greater concept of contributing to an open source community.
Oh, absolutely, right. So I think we are in a unique position in the world. Well, I mean, among the other industries, right, where with a fairly pointed, narrow effort, you can influence and change for the better lives of very, very many people, right? And you don't necessarily need to know those people personally, right? You can improve, I don't know, Maven, and I don't know, 70% of Java developers in the world can be using your code, right?
And that's a lot of developers.
That's a lot of developers. That's a big impact.
Yeah, that's right? Like millions of people.
As a developer working on your particular projects within the team, or even if you have experience a little bit between different projects or different companies, you might not realize the scale, right? The scale of this very easily. Come on. There are like, what was the saying? What's the number now? There is like around 9 million Java developers in the world.
Right? Oh, I don't know the number, but I think it's over 20 or something. So,
but like it's a big number.
Exactly.
For me, Estonia is 1.3 million total population.
Oh wow,
right?
Okay.
So it is like it's completely different scale, right?
Yeah.
And it feels good to contribute to the community. It feels good to know that you're helping people, and I think if what I was trying to say is, I think conferences are a very good way into that, to get a feel of that, to feel like you belong and you are part of something, and yeah, everyone should experience that on a regular basis.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I mean, even I love it. Even though I don't write code, I've been sort of involved with developers for a long, long time. And open source to me is a very powerful concept, because it's based on contribution, what you can contribute, and the amount of connections that you can make in a relatively short amount of time, as opposed to in your job. Your job in your company tends to be a little bit more hierarchical, and you don't necessarily have connections to millions of people inside your company. Usually your company is a lot smaller than millions of people. Whereas an open source project, the bigger ones are, connected globally and have huge, massive scale. See, I'm looking forward to it too.
Even the small ones, right? It's very, very important. And it doesn't have, your contribution doesn't have to be code, right? Mm-hmm. You can, well, tests are also sort of code, right? So, but you can contribute test cases, or you can try new features, you can send feedback, you can maybe do a little bit of effort to, I don't know, test your code with new Maven, or even like simpler, test your code, test your applications on newer Java versions, right? If you see something that is not right, talk to the maintainers. That is a very big part of what makes the projects alive and what makes projects move forward. It's very hard to do something in a vacuum, right? Because the community, we are so diverse. We come from different backgrounds. We use different technologies. Our point of view on how we develop is very different as well. And then it helps. Every little bit helps. Documentation, reading Java docs, right, or documentation samples, quick starts, all that, like, maintainers will absolutely thank you for all and any contributions like that.
Yeah, one of the points I make when I talk to people about contributions is it is the fastest way to get attention.
Yeah.
I mean, because you just said it, maintainers will love you for that, because, I mean, you're contributing something of value, right? And so so that's something that we can use, the whole community can use, and by definition, you're tied to that, right? And so it's just a very, very powerful concept. And yeah. So, all right. Well, so let's wrap it up here. Any final thoughts on going to the conference or your session? It's an introductory session. You mentioned, so it leads me to believe there's a lot more there than just that session, right? So people can dig into more afterwards.
Yes, absolutely. So Testcontainers provides you with a very flexible way of describing those environments, and you can do very cool things from not just the basic tests with for a small application with a database, but you can do like complex hierarchies, you can do complex topologies of those components with networks and everything. You can do chaos engineering on top of that. You can like inject a toxic proxy component for some. For example, we have a module for that will slow down or cut network to your dependencies, and you can test how your application will work if it doesn't have access to the database in a timely fashion, right? You can there are like modules to run a Kubernetes cluster, so you can test if you're writing stuff for Kubernetes like operators or something. You can do that. There is like it's a nicely isolated building block that integrates with other things, and that gives you the flexibility. So as a developer, you can build abstractions on top of that for your team, which is great. So there are levels of how deep you want to go with the integration tests with test containers. And this session at JavaOne will be, as you mentioned, and more on the introductory side. So even if you are a beginner, and even if you don't feel like you are an experienced developer doing tests with test containers for many, many years, you should come and you would learn necessary things to kickstart your kind of journey there. And yeah, that journey never ends. You will get a taste of better tests, and then you will be like, how could I live without this? You will love it.
Excellent. All right, JavaOne, October 17th through 20th in Las Vegas. We'll see you guys there. Oleg, it'd be good to see you there live outside of Zoom.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Catch you later.
Be there. If you have a chance, try it.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.